Welcome to another edition of Client Success Stories. I'm Coach Jackson, and I'm joined today by Perrin. And I am honored because she is the latest inductee into the Action Jackson Fitness Hall of Fame. And here's why. She lost 24 pounds, 8% body fat, 3.5 inches off of her waist, and she gained 3 pounds of muscle and added 188 points to her strength score, all in just 16 weeks. Those are fantastic numbers. It's been an absolute privilege to work with you. Perrin, welcome to the program.
Okay, I am Perrin Riendeau. I live in Charlestown, New Hampshire, a very small community right on the border of Vermont and New Hampshire. I live here. Technically like to claim that I'm from Vermont, but we won't dive into that too deeply. I'm married to Jeff, who is already a Hall of Famer with AJF. I have two sons. One is 18, a senior in high school. So we're going through all of the, senior final moments with him. And then our older son, Connor, who we're hoping will be joining the AJF community in the not too distant future. I work,
Wow.
right? I know, full family involvement. We're very excited. I work for a design and production company out of my home that's based out of New York. So I get a lot of New York travel that I get to juggle in life. But yeah, that's a little bit about me.
So you're a working, busy professional mom, and somehow you had time to fit all of this in. So that's really what we want to unpack because, especially for a lot of women out there, a lot of women who are moms and a lot of women who work, just feels like they don't have the time or they can't prioritize themselves. So before we jump into the, where you were, why you wanted to join, all that stuff, I just want to touch on this very briefly because I think it's so important. I speak to a lot of women who join our program, and sometimes they feel even guilty prioritizing themselves, their health, their fitness, and doing something that's, beneficial for them. Was that a struggle? How did you manage to squeeze this in, and how did you deal with those feelings if you had them?
I did sort of. It was nice to have my husband do it before me, right? To show me that he could prioritize this and still balance his work and his family and me within his everyday life and still make this a commitment. In the end, it's all about where do I see myself in 20 years? And how do I want to get there? And taking the time right now to focus on me to ensure that I am here in 20 years and living with my husband and my kids. I really love sleep. So it became a matter of what I was willing to give up and how much sleep I was willing to give up to make sure that this was part of the equation. Or, was this more important than TV time? And learning to balance that. I do still do my self-care, right? I still get my hair done. I still get my nails done. The things that for me are self-care, I have learned to fit into the equation. Um, forming the right habits and determining what habits are the priority in my life was a mindset shift, but an effective one because my husband had done it before me. It's harder to do when you're the only one in the house doing it sometimes.
Yeah, I think that's really important. So, two things mentioning there that yes, having household support, I think, is very important because if you're trying to go alone on this journey, and obviously we have the community, we have the coaching and the support, but in your household, if you're alone, it can be challenging. You need that family support or that spousal support, which is really important. Even if they're not in the program, as long as they support you, as long as they're okay with it, and not sabotaging you, which we see occasionally. But the other thing you mentioned is knowing and realizing that this is important to do now so I can be around to take care of people later. If I prioritize everybody else now, I'm not going to be here later. And I don't want to get too crazy off the bat, but that's one of the things I think of with my mom, and with my mom passing, is she always put everybody else first before herself, before her own health, her own fitness. It was always everyone else's feelings first, even to the point where I didn't know how bad her cancer and her diagnosis was. Anything, nobody did until it was like, oh, I think I have a couple of weeks left. And gosh, I just think back and I think I wish I would have had more time. I wish we could have went and visited earlier. I wish we would have known. And it's because she always was prioritizing, everybody else first. I don't want to bother everybody. I don't want everybody to worry about me. That I feel like I feel like a little bit, I didn't get that time. I got cheated out of that time. But also I feel like maybe if she had prioritized herself a little bit more, she would still be here. I don't know. I can't say. So, whew, tough left turn here, but let's kind of go back and why did you want to join the program to begin with? Like, obviously, yes, your husband went through, he got great results. He was in the Hall of Fame, but why you? Why at that point?
So I battled weight issues my whole life. I had gastric bypass surgery 9 years ago, and had been on, started on Weight Watchers when I was in this sixth or seventh, eighth grade. I was in middle school, right? So I've been battling my whole life, and it gotten to the point where I realized that I needed an additional tool to help me. So I had the surgery. It's the first time after surgery in my whole life that I had gotten down to a weight that I felt comfortable at. And then I met my husband, and they say that honeymoon phase, right? And where you don't really worry about anything. I put on an additional 40 pounds, a loss also with COVID, right? Stuck at home, just things that had impacted me. And I put on that weight, and I wasn't happy that I'd worked so hard to lose all of it, and then to put it back on. But also I knew that I didn't want to just lose weight. I wanted to build muscle. I was a bodybuilder in high school and really enjoyed weightlifting. Compounding with all of that was my parents had both gotten Parkinson's with Lewy body dementia, and I'd spent, years. I moved back to Vermont from Texas to help take care of them and watch them slowly deteriorate due to lack of activity, and then pass away within 9 months of each other. And so I think that also exacerbated weight gain during that time. And so I just wasn't in a happy place. I didn't feel good about myself. And I'd watched my husband be successful. And it's easy to know what to do. It's harder to do it and to have somebody help you do it, right? Like I said I bodybuilded. I was an athletic trainer in college. I know the things to do. It's like being a professional organizer. I love to organize. My house is not as organized as I want it to be. It's much easier to do it for other people than it is often to do it for yourself. So I needed you and the program to help me and to tell me what to do, in a way, to be the experts in the room so I could just fulfill your expertise, and that it was what I needed to be successful. And then I knew that I could learn it and maintain it once I had that expertise and I had that support system and I had that backbone, kind of that foundational element, to get me going, and then to help just be my guidepost throughout, right? So get me going, get me there, and then just be my checkpoint every once in a while to make sure I'm staying on track.
Gosh, I'm so sorry. I hadn't heard that story about your parents. I'm so sorry that happened, and that had to just been very traumatic. But sometimes we can turn those tragedies into something good for ourselves later. Obviously, the story of my mom. I've chatted about that many times. And sometimes is as hard as that is to go through and is difficult, if it can foster or it can help create a change in ourselves so that we don't go through that, or we don't see the people around us go through that, we can be an example for them. I think sometimes we can turn, tragedy, as Ryan Holiday would say in The Obstacles Away, tragedy into triumph in a way. And I think you've done that. You've been an incredible inspiration to your family, to your friends, neighbors, people around you. I mean, people in the community love you. You're just such a ray of shining, like, hope and light. And you're so smiley and bubbly. And I mean, people love you. So you've been an incredible inspiration. So I want to make sure that I tell you that. And I think that's really so important. But the other thing you mentioned is like, sometimes I know what to do, but I don't actually do it. And that's important, because so often I chat with people who, maybe don't sign up for the program, and they're like, oh, I know what to do, or I bought your book and I'm just going to follow it myself. And the hard part is that it's easy to read and figure this stuff out on your own, right? To know like the diet and stuff. The problem is like, do you know that that's actually going to work? Do you have confidence in that plan? And can you make those adjustments on the fly? But more importantly, can you hold yourself accountable to actually stick with it? And all that stuff takes time. It takes a lot of time and a lot of effort. Even doing this for myself, when I sit down and create my own workout program, my own diet and everything else, it takes hours for me to go through, write everything out, come up with a strategic plan that makes sense. And then now I have to execute it on it as well. Most people just aren't going to do that. So it's like, okay, just tell me what to do, right? Tell me what to do. Let me execute on it. Now I have confidence that I know that this is going to work because it's been proven and shown to work for other people. And then we're going to pivot and adjust if it doesn't work for whatever reason. And then also I'm going to be held accountable and I'm going to have that support system. So if I don't do what I need to do, I'm going to get either the kick in the butt, the pat on the back, or the helping hand so I can move forward. And that's what we try to do. It's like accountability with compassion, which is we're going to hold you accountable, but we also going to sometimes give you that compassion, that helping hand if you need, because sometimes you need the kick in the butt, but sometimes you don't. And that's detrimental. So it's about knowing what you need when to get you to move forward. And people just have a really difficult time doing that on their own. Even me, I've invested hundreds of thousands in business coaches over the years to get to where I'm at now at my business. And that was because you need somebody to kind of guide you along the way. We all need that guru, if you will. It comes from us. We're the ones that are executing and doing it, but we need somebody to kind of guide us and hold us accountable along the way. So thank you for mentioning that. Now, the other crazy thing you mentioned, and I'd love to hear more insight on this because my mom had gastric bypass too. And you think gastric bypass is a silver bullet, like, oh, you do this and then it just works. But it's not. You still have to change your habits. You still have to change your lifestyle. And I think a lot of people don't realize that. And I'm not anti-gastric bypass by any means, but you still have to change your lifestyle. Was that a shock to you? Did you know that? Like, I guess, talk to me about that a little bit.
Yeah, that's a lot of times the misconception is that it's the silver bullet, right? Like it's just gonna instantly allow you to lose weight, which it does to a certain extent. But one is you have therapy and counseling and education, nutritional education going in, and you have to show a commitment to it by losing a certain amount of weight before doing it. You have to establish some kind of exercise regimen and show that you're going to be committed to that as well before the surgeon will do any kind of procedure or commit to the procedure. And so, again, a lot of times when people are going in, they've done all these things. They've done a lot of this stuff. The surgery is kind of the last thing that they have found. But also oftentimes some people go in saying, oh, I'm going to do it, thinking it's that silver bullet and haven't really made that mental shift or mental commitment to it. And it's really easy to switch back, right? Because you can re-expand your stomach, which then allows you to lose weight again. Different surgeries have different results or can do different things. I had acid reflux already, and so the Roux-en-Y was the procedure that was chosen for me because the sleeve can cause acid reflux as a whatever the term is. Now I'm blanking on it, but as an after effect of the surgery, you can end up with gastric reflux, or acid reflux, and so my surgeon's like, let's not do that. You already have it. Let's not make it worse. And so the Roux-en-Y, but one of the things that comes with the Roux-en-Y surgery is what's called dumping syndrome. And that means if you intake too much sugar, it wants to expel from your body in any way it can, and you become ill. And so it is one of the side effects, that's the term I was looking for, side effects. It's one of the side effects of that particular surgery that really is a tool and holds you accountable, because I know people don't probably like to vomit. I really don't like it. Like really, I will do everything in my power not to. And so I learned very quickly if I ate too much sugar after surgery, that was potentially an outcome. I did not eat too much sugar, right? So it's a tool to help me make that choice. But also there are side effects like hair loss, your nutritional intake is different. You can't drink out of a straw for the for a period of time. You can't drink while you're eating because it fills your stomach with fluids that take the place of the nutrients that you need to be absorbing in the small stomach you have. And so there's a lot of rules that you have to follow. And if you follow them, similar to the AJF program, then it's effective. And similar to AJF program, if you follow it, eventually you incrementally can add to it to where you are sustaining and maintaining a quality of life that you really like and enjoy, and can, again, maintain for long periods of time. And so it's similar to that in the surgery as you're going through it. Again, a tool to get you to where you need to be. But you had to make drastic changes and commitment and to it. And so for me, I feel like that helped me in doing the program. It's because I saw those parallels to it. And I saw it as a tool to get me to where I needed to, again, maintain a quality of life that I wanted.
You have the surgery, you obviously lose weight, then you gain it back after you get married, and now you're, COVID, all of that, you're in a position where you feel like you needed to make a change. So you joined the program after your husband, and obviously you've had a smashing success, great results. But let's dive into the details of it. Wasn't always this pretty, right? There were times, I'm sure, where there were some obstacles and some challenges. That's what people want to hear about, because it's easy to just look at the before and afters and say, oh my God, this person's amazing. This must have been easy for them. And I know that's not the case. So let's talk about some of the challenges and the obstacles, and more specifically, how you actually overcame them. Let's give some people some lessons here. Tips, tricks, strategies, mindsets, whatever can be helpful. So what were some of the obstacles, if there's 2 or 3 that stand out, and then let's dissect them.
So a first challenge for me right out of the bat was working out fasted. And what I know myself, I know that if I try, I can stop things cold turkey, but if I stop like 4 things at the same time cold turkey, it's going to be too much for me. So again, having watched my husband go through some of this, I started eliminating things. I knew I wasn't getting the intake of water that I needed. So I stopped drinking soda at home so that I could replace that with my water consumption. And I would allow myself, because I like Pepsi Zero. It is one of my cruxes. And so when I go out to eat, I would drink a Pepsi Zero, but I wouldn't drink them at home. So I would start drinking more water. So I started incrementally before I actually officially joined with you doing those things. I then started fasting ahead of time, not fasting and working out yet, just fasting so that I could get in the habit of the fasting. I did start on tonal and started working on tonal and working out through the programs on tonal to again establish that working out consistency so that when I started with you, I would have that consistency. So I incrementally built up so that I wasn't like starting with AGF and being like, okay, I'm going to do all these things at one time, and kind of setting myself up for failure by just not preparing myself well enough. But that first 2 weeks of working out fasted, it kicked my tail. I had to sit down. There were times I thought I was going to pass out. I would have to just sit down and take breaks until I thought I could finish. And I finished every time. My commitment was to finish, no matter how long it took me. And once I got through those first 2 weeks, it was like, I remembered it, but I barely remembered it kind of thing, right? Not to say that they're easy, because they're not easy, but I didn't feel like this sense of, why am I doing this? This is miserable, kind of, which I did have. Those first 2 weeks I really questioned it. But at the same time, I'd seen Jeff do it and be successful. So I knew that there was a turning point that was coming. And having also watched and been part of the community for a little bit, I knew other people were experiencing similar things. So I wasn't alone in my journey, which helps. I'm a people person. I like to know that I'm doing things with other people and they're commiserating in misery with me at times. So that was the biggest challenge for me. The other challenge for me was the fact that I can't consume as much in one sitting because of the surgery that I had. So getting my protein in during my hours that I could eat, um, I had to turn to liquid consumption more than I originally had wanted to, which turned out to be okay. Right? It wasn't the end of the world. Obviously, I would have preferred to get it through some kind of chicken or something, but I ended up finding those 42-gram shakes, and they got me the protein that I needed to get. Even and liquid is easier for my stomach to absorb.
Okay, let's unpack those two things first. So the first thing was the fasted workouts, which isn't mandatory, but if you're going to do intermittent fasting, it does just make it a lot easier to restrict your window. And especially if you work out in the morning, you're kind of going to have to work out in a fasted state because you don't have enough time to eat and process and everything else in the morning. So certainly not mandatory, but it can be helpful, again, if you want to follow an intermittent fasting schedule, which we like intermittent fasting. But again, it's just a tool like many others, like all these things we're talking about. It's just a tool that can help you get to the outcomes. And I think the most important thing you mentioned there was that I knew there was going to be a turning point, which is I had trust, right, in the plan that if I execute and do this, at some point it's going to improve and it's going to get better. And I'm going to kind of get to the other end, right? It's like when you're walking through hell, you just keep walking as long as you know there's an out, there's an exit. But if you don't know there's an exit, that becomes very difficult to keep going. And that's when you're on an island by yourself or you're doing this alone, without support, community, anything else, that it can be very difficult to keep going, keep marching, because you don't know where the exit's going to be and you don't know how long it's going to take and you don't know what to do when you're in the dark. So I think that's really important, is having that hope and being able to keep putting one foot in front of the other, knowing I'm going to get to the other side. And I know it's a little bit difficult now, but it's not going to be this difficult forever. That is so important. That hope is everything to people when they're in a difficult time, whether that's going through, dieting, exercise program, workouts, financial troubles, marital troubles. Having that hope is everything. So I think that's really important. The other thing is strategically leveraging, whether it's Diet Coke or water or other stuff. I think it's great that you drink Diet Coke if you're out and about. That's a nice treat to give yourself when you're not at home. But of course, you got to get that water intake. Water is the easiest, fastest way to improve your energy, your mental clarity, to get better sleep, to improve your workouts, everything. I mean, I got my water right here on my desk, and it's because it's just so critical to get a certain amount of water. And that's just so critical. Again, doesn't mean diet soda is the enemy. It just means you got to get the water intake as you're getting in as well right now, which I love. So that's the first thing. And then the second obstacle, what was the second obstacle you mentioned?
Oh, the protein.
The protein, yes. So of course we love it if you can get all the protein from natural sources of like whole foods, chicken, turkey, venison, bison, whatever. But if you can't for whatever reason, because of an issue like you with the previous gastric bypass, or if it's not convenient, you're on the go, you're traveling, whatever, then leveraging something like a protein shake can be quite beneficial, because you got to get your protein in. And this is something I see particularly for our female clients, which is not eating enough protein. And it's critical for everybody, but especially our female clients, to make sure they're getting that protein in so they can obviously feel more satiated, they can recover properly from their workouts, and they can get the muscle building benefits of the workouts that we want them to get. So it's critical to get that kind of protein. And it's the best of all macronutrients. It has the highest thermogenic effect of food. It also is going to make you feel the most satiated. And of course, it's going to help with building muscle and strength and recovery and all of those great things. So that's really important, again, especially for female clients. What's one or maybe two others that you can think of off the top of your head?
We've talked about this a lot, that I've had shoulder injuries in the past. And so I've had the cortisone shots, the inter-joint cortisone shot, where they go into the capsule and release the cortisone. And I hadn't experienced any challenges until I started doing more and more lifting. And the heavier the lifting got, then my shoulders started to get irritated. And so learning that, a lot of people know my husband, and know that he goes the extra mile. Um, no pain, no gain kind of kind of philosophy. So he's not the best one to turn to if I'm in pain, right? Because he's gonna, suggest that I power through it a lot of times. Um, which I do on occasion, right? But to recognize when my body is telling me that it's okay to shift, pivot, adjust, accommodate. Um, and I continue to have left shoulder pain. And so, have been working with you to kind of accommodate that. I wasn't prepared for that, right? I thought, okay, I'm getting into great shape. I'm doing good things. I'm getting, fit and muscular and lean. And why is my shoulder being a problem, right? I'm in the best shape of my life. I'm, the lightest weight I've ever been. I'm the most muscular I've ever been. And so it was a challenge, but to recognize that we're all just human, and that we have those challenges and that they do arise, and it's okay to pivot.
Yeah. So I think the things that I want to kind of unpack there is first is that we don't recommend, like Jeff might, but we wouldn't recommend pushing through the pain. That's not a good mantra to have. The mantra is work around the pain. So continue to work out, yes, but work around the pain. So lower the weight, change your range of motion, switch up your grip, or use a different arm slot if you can, or something like that. Maybe switch from a barbell overhead press to doing with the handles or a dumbbell. Like there's alternatives that you can do often that allow you to work around the pain so you're not making it worse or injuring it during your workouts. Heck, we've even had clients who can't do lower body or upper body workouts, and we just do one or the other. So we've had clients who've had shoulder surgery and we only do lower body workouts sometimes. So there's always a way to work around an injury or work around the pain. And I had a client once, actually it wasn't a client, it was a tonal user in the tonal community. They said, hey, Jackson, I have an injury. It was an elbow or something, and I won't be able to work out for a while. How do you come back from an injury like that? And I said, you just don't stop. I said, if it's your elbow, just do lower body workouts until you can do upper body. Because if you stop, then that is the death. That is atrophy. That's death. It is so hard to restart again if you completely stop. So it's just like, do what you can to keep some sort of momentum going, and by working around the injury. And of course, there's certain circumstances where you might have to take off, but it's pretty rare that you can't work around an injury. So always work around is always the recommendation. And then of course, do things that can help to improve that. So whether it's corrective exercises, stretching, mobility work, something, massage therapy, see a physical therapist if you need to. Always leverage those resources because, of course, you want to try to address root causes as well. I just went to a physical therapist in St. Louis I flew to get a root cause on my knee, and it ended up being my hip. So we do, of course, recommend you do that as well. I think that's helpful. But the other thing is that people think that there's going to be no problems if they get fit. And the real answer is it's kind of like being rich. Being rich doesn't mean that you don't have problems. You just have different problems. Being fit doesn't mean you have no problems. It just means you have different problems. You have maybe overuse injuries sometimes. You have injuries from maybe working out occasionally. You have other things that crop up, and they're difficulties that people then will say, well, I guess maybe I wasn't meant to be fit, or maybe it's not meant to be, or maybe this is just not for me because of this. And it's like, no, it is. It's just that other people, right, that are fit just deal with those as part of the process. It's like if you want to run a marathon, it's not going to be that enjoyable at times. And there's going to be some times where it's going to be pretty painful, and you're going to have to like figure that out somehow. Nobody finishes a marathon and just says that was a breeze. So it's like, what do you do in those moments? Can you work around? Can you pivot? Can you adjust? And can you adopt the mindset of like, hey, I'd rather have this problem than the alternative. I'd rather have an overuse injury, right, than have the problem of being sedentary or heart disease or other things that are going to crop up if you don't do anything. Because you can go hide underneath your bed and health problems will find you. They will come and find you under there. So it's just, what kind of problems do you want to have? And that was a lesson I learned from a great book from Mark Manson, who wrote The Subtle Art of Not Giving an F, which is a fantastic book. I think it sold like 20 million copies, which is crazy. But in that book, he talks a lot about, what kind of problems do you want to have? And if you want to make a lot of money, you're going to have rich people problems. If you don't make money, then you're going to have poor people problems. But there's always going to be some type of problems. Warren Buffett has money problems, just like me and you, just different problems. So I think that's a really important point for people to understand, is there's always going to be some kind of issue. Any other obstacles that you had to overcome along the way?
I think it's the balancing act of cardio versus lifting too, right? For whatever reason, my body likes running. It's a very solitary exercise, so it's not normally my jam, but my body really likes it, so I do it. My runs have been amazing since I did the program, which is really exciting, and actually I enjoy running now. But like it was the balancing act of wanting to continue to maintain muscle, build muscle, but also wanting to stay lean and getting the right amount of cardio in and feeling like I'm getting the cardio in that makes me feel good and that my body enjoys. And I think I'm still kind of learning what that balancing act looks like. But that's just another challenge, right? I feel like if I'm not being challenged, then there might be something wrong in some way, right? Because it means I'm not growing in a way. I feel like growth comes with challenge, and overcoming challenges are what makes you grow. So I'm okay with challenges, and this one just seems like my most current one.
Yeah, absolutely. And we see this a lot, again, especially with our female clients who maybe have a history of doing more cardio and then seeing some results with that. So then they develop this sort of mindset or pattern of, oh, that's the only way to lose weight. We've had lots of clients who've come into the program and said, oh, I only can lose weight by running. And we've had to shift that mindset along the way and say, no, you can lose weight with strength training as well. You just haven't done it in the past yet, but we're going to show you how. And I think the key is, and this is something we try to do in our program, which is we try to get a good blend, a mix of strength training plus cardio in one workout. So you can actually get cardio training from your strength training. And this is why you experience better runs at the end of the program. And most of our clients do. So if you run a 5K or run whatever, like if you run that before and after the program, you're going to have a much better time after, because you're stronger, you're more powerful, your muscles have more endurance, but your cardiovascular capacity is actually tremendously increased. And that's because we're using, typically, especially in the beginning when people want to lose a lot of body fat and lose weight and build muscle, we're using shorter rest periods, oftentimes, sometimes no rest periods, to keep the heart rate elevated. So a strength training workout is almost like a HIIT cardio session, because you have 2 to 3 minutes where your heart rate is just pegged and spiked. And then you have a break of, maybe 60 seconds where it kind of comes down, and then you spike it again, and then again and again. And you do that for 30, 40, 50 minutes, however long your workout is. Well, that's going to really improve your cardiovascular capacity quite a bit. And then on top of that, if you're doing, 3, maybe 4 strength training workouts per week, if you can get in one cardio session, you're probably going to be good from a cardio perspective. Unless, of course, you just really like cardio and want to do extra, in which case, great, go ahead and do it. As long as it's not at the detriment of your strength training workouts, it's totally, totally fine. So, well, what are any other insights, breakthroughs, things that you might want to share with people that you kind of learned along the way? This whole journey that you've been on, but you're kind of the journey your family's been on, I guess.
And again, it's just for us in our household, but if it's important enough to us, we're going to do it. And so it was finding where the importance was to us. Jeff and I both want to live long and see our kids have kids and be around for them. And so being healthy and being fit now, and not, we both feel like we waited a little too long to get into this, but we've made the choice now. And we're happy that we've made the choice now, and we'll continue it forward, because neither one of us want to go backward to where we were before. And so that's been pivotal for us in this choice, in this journey that we're on. But again, just having each other, having the household as a whole family doing different things, both of our boys using tonal, and going on this kind of journey, fitness journey with us. Our 18-year-old's young. He's still got a lot of energy and strength that we don't have. So I'm jealous that I didn't try and do it better back then. But it's been really, our lives have changed completely in the past year. And it's a large part to you. And the program, and just having this whole community of people like I said, Jeff and I love the community part of it too, right? We love being able to engage and interact and spar a little bit with other people within the community as well, and just learn from other people and their experiences. So that's also been super influential in maintaining and continuing the journey.
Fantastic. I certainly appreciate you. I appreciate your time. I appreciate all the lessons you've shared, all the hard work that you put in, for trusting me, of course, for investing in your health and your fitness, and for being such a shining example to so many people. Your family, yes, but also your community, the Action Jackson Fitness community, the Tonal community, all the people online, your friends, your family, your neighbors, everybody. You've been a tremendous shining light. So thank you for that. It's just been so wonderful to work with you and get to know you as a person as well. And I just feel like I have the best job in the world. I'm the luckiest guy ever. So getting to work with awesome people like you. But I want to point out that you mentioned just how important having the people around you. Yes, your family, but also even a bigger community other than that, because having those people around you that's going to make the big difference in your life. That's so important. When I wanted to go on this entrepreneurial journey and start a fitness business, I left my family, my friends, everybody behind in Chicago, and I moved to San Francisco because I needed to get into a different community of people who believed in entrepreneurship, because nobody ran their own business where I was from, who were really into health and fitness, because not a lot of people are into that in Chicago. And also people who could support me, kind of being on my own. And where I was, everyone was like, why are you leaving your consulting job? You're making six figures. What are you, crazy? Like, you have a secure job, you have health insurance. You're going to drop all of that for this? You're nuts. And that wasn't very supportive to help me with my goals. I needed to get somewhere else where other people were saying, oh, you want to start a fitness business? That's awesome. That's great. Here, come on in here. We can help you. We can show you the way. We can give you some guidance and support and help. And I got that in San Francisco when I moved there, and that changed my life forever. I never would have hooked up with Tonal. I wouldn't be sitting here with you. I wouldn't have helped any of the people that I've helped along the way if it wasn't for that support that I got and the welcoming and everything that I got when I got there in San Francisco. All the people that helped me, like, gosh, I can never repay all of them. So I think community is so important, and people kind of overlook it a lot. So that's a huge lesson. So thank you again for your time. Thank you for all your hard work, for putting up with me, for putting up with Jeff and everybody. You're truly an inspiration. So thank you. And any last words or final things you want to share?
Take the leap. That's all I'm going to say.
Action is the difference. So thank you so much again. I appreciate you. You heard her. Action is the difference. I appreciate you all out there, and we'll see you in the next one.